Another scary thing is that you can utilize the data capability on the third generation networks to make voice over IP calls. And this brings forward a key number of questions regarding the parasitic nature of some of these phones. Large telecommunication networks literally require millions of dollars in order to upgrade them on a time-to-time basis. Right now, it's the year 2005, and 10, 12 years ago, about 100% of the world was running on first-generation networks. Right now, less than 0.1% of the technology worldwide is running on first-generation networks. The last 10 years, we've seen second-generation networks booming around the world. And as of 1994, 95, we see a number of third-generation or WCDMA networks becoming more advanced. Why did WCDMA become necessary? Well, with a huge increase in the number of users of cellular infrastructure, it meant that the traditional second-generation network couldn't handle the capacity of a faster-growing user base. New technology that can handle more people per base station was required, and that's why third-generation networks are required. But this literally meant a multi-million-dollar investment in infrastructure. In the future, if these parasitic technologies become commonly available, then the cellular companies will no longer make the money that they normally made out of telephone calls. Any investor that wants to invest in an infrastructure requires return on investment. And this is where the crux of the matter comes in. If we take a look at a large investor, they would like a stable environment where if they make an investment, at least they can get their money back after 5 years or 6 years, and then on a year-to-year basis, at least outrun what you get on the stock exchange. Because why else would an investor invest in infrastructure that is paying back over 10 years' time? If he can take the money, put it in the stock exchange, get 25% return on investment, and remove his money with minimal risk. And this is going to be one of the key questions. Where will the next generation of funds come from if the traditional telephone model is slowly being eroded by parasitic technologies? This will mean that cellular networks will have to move into value-added services that look at getting additional value out of the periphery of the network. Well, the interesting thing is that the internet companies, ISPs, television companies have played on the periphery for decades. And for cellular companies to suddenly move into these areas and make additional money there becomes exceedingly difficult. And it will mean a total rethink of the traditional business models in the traditional media space. So if we talk about the word convergence, which comes up quite often, it really means that all of the different industries are now merging together to provide services to the user with different characteristics. The only problem is that the business model that was prevalent in the internet is now becoming one of the more dominant models that influences all of these marketplaces. So in the past, we were charged per minute to make a telephone call. Now a flat fee becomes applicable simply because the internet business model is forcing companies to change their ways. We're also seeing a change in advertising in television, where television companies normally made money by providing one advertisement for a big user base. We see that the internet are individualized, and therefore advertisements in the future will be a one-to-one issue. Internet companies will provide advertisements that is directly linked to the user. So if I watch a television program over an IP channel, the advertisements I will see will be specifically focused on me as an individual user. So the effectiveness of this advertising will be far better than the traditional case. And this will also challenge the traditional business model of television, because if a user decides to watch any program at any time because of high bandwidth, why are you going to hook up to a traditional TV channel that just synchronizes or wants to synchronize your schedule with the scheduler of the TV station? And I'm not really interested in advertisements aimed at 16-year-old girls. That's why the internet world will play a significant role in the communication space and multimedia space as well. So convergence really says that the same functionality I had in the past are now improved because I've got more choice, but the business models are also threatened. And if you want to find out which business model will be dominant, it will really be the open network or netted business model, where you purely pay for content and not really for the access layer and what you do in terms of the access that you have on the internet. Getting back to the core layer, a couple of changes will take place in how things are switched. If we take a look at the next generation network concept, we see that the cellular companies are trying to hedge their bets by even putting more intelligence in the middle of the network. We see the core tier, this is where all the IP switching takes place, but then a very important intelligent edge tier, where all of the IMS functionality will become applicable. This is soft switches, media gateways, application servers, which will allow cellular users as well as other users to buy content. Unfortunately, we'll see a number of these content drivers being available outside the network as well. And this will bring into question the very business model on which these cellular technologies are based. The local loop is also quite important in this environment because it allows access to the value-added services that is available within the network. Quite important, however, is that end-to-end IP connectivity will make all of this far easier because the interfaces between these various elements will now become so much easier to handle. The problem we have with end-to-end IP connectivity is that all control starts disappearing as well. And that means that the same services that you make available in the network can also be made available outside the network. And that for the user having a pure end-to-end IP connectivity, he can link to any piece of information on the internet that he wants to. So he doesn't only have to look at the walled garden approach that the cellular companies are focusing on. He can actually facilitate services from anywhere in the world, because end-to-end IP connectivity is just that. I can connect to any server in the world and I can get any content that I'm interested in via any device I want to use. The cellular companies will also focus on a variety of different technologies, and IMS is one of the key elements. Let's quickly take a look at the difference between the two mindsets. The IMS environment will really focus on C++ or Java, and that is a far better upgrade or position they had a few years ago. In the past, the bottom left-hand side of the screen is where the protocols were dominant in the last few years in the telecommunications space. Technologies and protocols like the Intelligent Network Application Protocol and a variety of others played a significant role. The number of developers in that space, however, was not a lot, and therefore you were expected to pay quite a lot of money for changes to the network. The IMS is actually positioned in the middle. There are literally thousands of developers in the C++ and Java space, which enables any change to the network to be far more cost effective, and it also allows a very flexible approach in changing certain applications within the network. So flexibility will become one of the dominant factors in the near future. Unfortunately, we also see millions of programmers on the internet that write in Visual Basic or JavaScript, and they will allow various users of IP-based equipment to access content directly via various websites. So whereas the IMS allows you or forces you to go through the cellular intelligence in the cellular network, we are seeing that the IP community only wants an IP connectivity, and they will then provide the content outside the traditional network. And both these content provisioning services will look relatively the same, and it'll definitely be a very big battle indeed. Let's quickly take a look at a technology called push-to-talk. Push-to-talk can be handled via cellular networks, and it works as follows. You have a telephone that looks like this, and the moment you want to make a call or establish a call, you choose the person you want to send the message to, you hold in the call button, you send a message, and after a couple of seconds you release the button, and that person will get a message via the data network. So your voice is captured on the device, sent through the data network onto the handset of the other user, and when the user receives the message, he'll call back. It's like a walkie-talkie, but via the internet protocol.